Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you a review of the new high coverage cream foundation from Jouer. I have all 17 shades here, so that's really helpful because I can swatch them all for you guys and you guys can see what shade you might be. And I'm going to do a demo, and I have been wearing this for a couple days, so I have a lot of thoughts about the foundation. So if you guys are interested in the new Jouer foundation, then just keep on watching. So the new Jouer High Coverage Cream Foundation launches today on October 17th on the Jouer website. It's available in 17 shades and it's $38. In each bottle you get 0.68 ounce of product. So it is a lot less product than some other foundations. Here is my Makeup Forever foundation for reference. You can see that the bottle is a bit smaller. Usually in a foundation you get 1 ounce of product. So I was a little bit surprised by that, but it is a high coverage foundation. And in my demo you guys will see that it is really pigmented. So you need a lot less product. Like I honestly use probably half, if not less than that, of the amount of product with this foundation compared to my other foundations. So you do get less product than some other foundations, but you don't need as much product. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you guys are considering buying this foundation. The other claims are that it's a lightweight, it's an airbrush matte finish, and it's a long wearing foundation. I find all those claims to be incredibly true. And you know, I really don't like full coverage foundations. I like barely there foundations. The Makeup Forever is one of my favorites. I just like really light, natural looking foundations. So I was a little worried about the high coverage effect with this one. And I just find that if I apply less foundation, it gives me like a perfect medium coverage. But you can definitely get a really easy, flawless looking, high coverage look without even needing too much product, which is really great because sometimes full coverage foundations, they look really full coverage. Like they have a really thick, really almost cakey look to them. But this one, the formula is really lightweight. Like it's crazy because the formula feels like this going on. This is like a super lightweight, almost water weight formula. And it feels like that, but it gives you full on pigmentation and color payoff onto your skin. So you do get the benefits of a full coverage foundations without the downsides of the heaviness or the cakiness. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in my demo, but I want to get into swatches since I do have all of the foundations. I'm so excited to have like all of them to swatch for you guys. I know that's like really helpful. And I had to actually try several times to get my shade. I did a first impression live on Instagram, and yeah, I was totally wearing the wrong shade. I actually tried 2 different shades, and then later I realized they were really wrong because this foundation does dry darker. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. My shade is the shade Sand. This is like a light, medium, warm shade. I'm about NC 25 in MAC. I'm like almost like a hint darker than that. And this ends up being a perfect shade for me. It's what I'm wearing today. It's what I've been wearing for the past couple days with different makeup looks, like a vampy look, a natural look, and it ends up looking really good every time. So if you're similar to my complexion, Sand is a really good match. If you're like NC 25, that is what I recommend. And it is a little lighter, but all the foundations do dry a bit darker. I tried another foundation at first that I thought was my shade. It looked good, and then like an hour later I realized like, whoa, that is really dark on me. So definitely go a shade or 2 down if you guys are curious about your foundation shade because it does dry darker. So go ahead and swatch all the foundations for you guys, and just keep in mind there's only 17 shades, which is a pretty limited range, and I had a little bit of trouble picking out my foundation shade, and I have them all. So I think a lot of people will have a little bit of trouble either matching, or you're not going to find your foundation in this range. So that's definitely a con. I hope that they do come out with more foundations than just the 17 shades. And so you guys can see how like they break down the shades. It's fair, light, medium tan, and deep dark. You have 5 and then 7 mediums and then 5 dark. So the first row you'll see swatch is the fair light row, which is 5 different foundations with different undertones, cool, neutral, and yellow tone, like my shade Sand. So those are the first 5 lightest shades in this range. So next we have the medium to tan shades. There are 7 shades in this range. and it ranges from almond to nutmeg. So those are the 7 medium shades. And then lastly, we have 5 deep to dark shades that range from cafe to espresso. So those are all 17 shades. I'm gonna go ahead into the demo so you guys can see how I applied the foundation on my face today. All right, so I'm just going in with the shade Sand, and I'm gonna use my beauty blender to buff it out. It does come with a brush, but anytime I use a brush, it just changes the coverage. It makes it more full coverage, and I wanna show you guys how I normally apply my foundations. And then for primer, I just use this Jouer anti-aging moisturizer. It's really just a lightweight lotion, kind of like a regular moisturizer. It doesn't give you any like pore filling benefits. It's just really hydrating. And this is a high coverage foundation. So I'm gonna do half my face first so you guys can see how it looks compared to the other half. And what I found the past couple times that I've applied this foundation is that less is definitely more. First time I applied this, I went crazy. I did like 4 pumps, or I did maybe like 3 pumps of the foundation, and I realized like I can go down to even less than 1 pump for my whole face. So I'm just gonna do like a little baby pump for the center of my face, and I'm just gonna work it, since I'm talking, like a little bit at a time, because this does dry pretty quickly as well. So that looks like a little bit of foundation, I know, but as you can see, as I'm buffing it out, covers like the whole center of my face. And I'm also more of like a lightweight foundation person, so I'll probably go in with a little bit less than most people, but just know in general you probably need about half of what you normally apply. So that was like just like a baby dot of foundation, and that was coverage on this whole side of my face. All right, so this is just 1/2 of my face, and it's pretty much like dry already. So it does dry really quickly. And I am gonna set my face, but it's basically like almost, it's not a powder finish, but it's like almost getting there. It's definitely, it needs like the most minimal powder afterwards. Every time that I've applied it, it does dry really quickly. So I'm going into the other half, but you guys can see it has like a pretty natural finish, but it still gives me a good amount of coverage, and I put on like the tiniest amount of foundation. If I went in with like a full pump, it's gonna be really nice, like full coverage, but to me this is like a really good medium coverage with just using a little bit of foundation. So moving into the other half of my face, and this is so pigmented that it reminds me of like, I haven't tried this out, but it just reminds me of the concept of like the Cover FX foundation drops that you add in to foundations to add coverage. This is what this foundation reminds me of, because the formula feels very, very lightweight. It's like the same consistency as a water weight foundation, but it gives you way more coverage. And you might notice that it dries a little darker, so like it looks so light when I first apply it. But it does dry darker, and especially if you go in with more foundation than I'm using, and you guys can probably see it on my head a little bit too, like in my hairline, that it looks really, really light. But as soon as it's blended and it dries within like 2-3 minutes, it's gonna dry a shade darker. So it goes on really smooth and natural looking. It doesn't look heavy on my face or anything. The only issue I've ever had with this foundation when I apply it is like around my nose. And I don't know if it's just because it dried down so quickly that I didn't get to finish blending it out. That's kind of what it looks like, a little bit like right in here. I don't know if you guys can tell. Maybe that's it, like that I just need to like work really quickly on my nose, because it ends up drying like thicker. So that's just something to be aware of, to make sure you blend this out pretty quickly, and especially any drier patches on your skin, or like any dryness or any like texture on your skin, you probably want to work really fast and not let it sit there, because it might just dry down really, really quickly. So for me, this is the right amount of coverage with just a little bit less than 1 full pump, and that's gonna definitely go a long way all over my face. When I apply it, you guys can see it's like a tiny little bit, but it does spread out really nicely and blend out really nicely. So I really like the finish for how much I'm using. If I were to go in with probably double that, you get like super full coverage foundation. So you can definitely get like a really full coverage effect, and it's still gonna feel really lightweight. But for medium coverage, I like to go in with a little bit less product, and it goes a long way. Like the tiniest bit can cover your whole face, which was really different when I first tried out this product, because it was like a hot mess. So you have a little bit of a learning curve there. Definitely use less product in general, even if you want a full coverage look. Still use a little less product. Start off small, and build your way up because it is a highly pigmented formula. And the other thing to keep in mind for sure is that it does dry a little bit darker, so maybe go a shade lighter. In just like the 4 minutes since I've applied my foundation, it has dried down a little bit darker. It was pretty pale when I was first applying it. So just keep that in mind, that you might want to go a shade down, because I definitely thought that I was a couple shades darker, but then it really dried down pretty dark. So definitely just keep that in mind if you guys are picking out shades online. All right, so with a full face of makeup, this is what the foundation looks like. It's a really good match. It's really lightweight, which I really like because I cannot feel it throughout the day. The other day when I was wearing this foundation, I like went to touch my face and then I had to think for a minute whether or not I was actually wearing makeup, like no joke, because it is a very lightweight feel, which I really like, and I don't find ever, I don't think ever, in a full coverage foundation. So overall, I really like this foundation. I like the way that it wears. I like the finish of it. I like that it looks really natural, but it still gives me a little bit more coverage. And if you guys are new to my channel, I do have more like dry to normal skin. And because it is a matte foundation, I was a little concerned about that, but it doesn't feel drying at all. It feels super comfortable. Maybe if you had like super dry skin, it might feel a little too matte, but on me, I don't find that to be the case. And I didn't do any like crazy moisturizing beforehand. I just used like a really lightweight moisturizer beforehand. So that is everything about this foundation. It should now be available on the Jouer site. And yeah, that is everything for today's video. Definitely let me know your thoughts about this foundation if you plan on getting it in the comments down below. And if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.